Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. This is a narration of the book The Laws of Nature, An Infallible Justice by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Introduction. A man prides himself on being a creature of reason, above the lowly beasts. Yet it seems that when he applies his reason to unlocking the secrets of nature for his benefit, he sinks deeper and deeper into a quagmire of intractable problems. The internal combustion engine gets us where we are going faster, but also results in choking air pollution, the greenhouse effect, and a dangerous dependence on oil. Harnessing the atom gives us cheap energy, but also leads to weapons of mass destruction, Chernobyl, and a rising tide of dangerous radioactive waste. Modern agribusiness produces a dizzying variety and abundance of food at the supermarket, but also results in the death of a family farm, the pollution of the groundwater, the loss of precious topsoil, and many other problems. It's clear we are missing something in our attempt to harness the laws of nature for our own purpose. What is that something? We find out in the very first mantra of Ishopanishad, the foremost of ancient India's books of wisdom known as the Upanishads. Everything in this creation is owned and controlled by the Lord. One therefore should accept only those things necessary for himself which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. In nature, we see this principle at work. Nature's arrangement set up by the Lord maintains the birds and the beasts. The elephant eats his 50 kilos per day, and the ant his few grains. If man doesn't interfere, the natural balance sustains all creatures. Any agriculturist will tell you the earth can produce enough food to feed 10 times the present human population. Yet, political intrigues and wars, unfair distribution of land, the production of cash crops like tobacco, tea, and coffee instead of food, and erosion due to misuse ensure that millions go hungry even in wealthy countries like the United States. We must understand the laws of nature from the viewpoint of Supreme Lord who has created these laws. In his eyes, all the earth's inhabitants, whether the creatures of the land, water, or air, are his sons and daughters. Yet we, the human inhabitants, the most advanced of his creatures, treat these sons and daughters with great cruelty, from the practice of animal slaughter to destruction of the rainforests. Is it any wonder that we suffer an unending series of natural disasters, war, epidemics, famines, and the like? The source of our problem is the desire for the general gratification, sense gratification, beyond the consideration of anyone else's rights. These rights are the rights of the child in relation to the father. Every child has the right to share the wealth of his father. So, creating a brotherhood of all creatures on earth depends on understanding the universal fatherhood of God. As we have seen, the Vedic literature declares that the Supreme Lord owns and controls the entire creation. Not even a blade of grass moves without his sanction. He is the complete whole. Then what is our position? Again, we find the answer in the Vedic literature. Our nature, constitutional role is to serve God. He is the supreme enjoyer, and we are meant to take part in his enjoyment through service to him, not by trying to enjoy separately. He is omnipotent and thus completely independent. Our minute dependence is a tiny reflection of his total independence. It is our misuse of that minute independence and our attempt to enjoy separate from him that have resulted in our current predicament. Why do we misuse our independence? Well, because we are ignorant of our real nature. The first lesson of the Vedic wisdom is that we are not bodies but rather spirit souls, minute particles of consciousness dwelling within the body and animating it. Just as a car is a machine that allows a driver to travel from point A to point B, the body is a machine that allows the spirit soul to act and to experience sensations and thoughts within the Lord's material nature. When we understand our true identity as spiritual beings, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, God, we understand that we are meant to serve Him as the hand or foot serves the whole body. Our problem, however, is that we forget our identity, separate from the body, and instead misidentify ourselves with it. If a person happens to be born in America, he considers himself an American. If he is born in France, he considers himself a Frenchman, and so on. We also identify ourselves according to our sex, race, creed, social status, etc. But all these qualities apply only to the body and not the soul. Therefore, embracing them as our true identity causes us to forget the Lord and our relationship with Him, and to see ourselves as independent enjoyers of His material nature. The Vedic literature explains that human activity, when devoid of service to Lord, is governed by a subtle law known as the law of karma. This is the familiar law of action and reaction as it pertains to what we do in this world and the enjoyment or suffering we experience as a result. If I cause pain to another living being, then as surely as the wheels of life turn, I will be forced to suffer similar pain. And if I bring happiness to another, a like pleasure awaits me. At every second, with every breath, our activities in this material world cause enjoyment and suffering. To facilitate these endless actions and reactions, there has been more than just one life. There has to be reincarnation. Until recently, the idea of reincarnation, while universally accepted in India and other Eastern countries, has found few adherents in the West. The Church banned the philosophy of reincarnation centuries ago. This is a long story dating as far back as the history of the early Christian Church between 300 AD and 600 AD. Recounting this controversy is not within the scope of this book, but the denial of this important concept has left a void in the worldview of the Western people. However, in the last decade or so, many thinkers in the West have begun to take the idea of reincarnation seriously. For example, Dr. Michael Sabom of Emory University Medical School has written a book entitled Recollections of Death, a Medical Investigation, 1982, which details his studies confirming the out-of-body experiences reported by cardiac arrest patients. Sabom writes, could the mind which splits apart from the physical brain be, in essence, the soul, which continues to exist after the final bodily death according to some religious doctrines? And Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at University of Virginia, in his book 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation in 1966, has documented and verified past life memories in young children. Other studies using such methods as hypnotic regression indicate that the idea of reincarnation may soon gain acceptance among mainstream scientists in the West.